Hey, White Sox fans. My name is Brett Ballantini, slightly under the weather, so I might actually, in an unprecedented move, mute myself for some of this podcast. Don't count on it, though, but it could happen. This is Sox Populi Mothership Podcast number 185. And again, as I say often, can you believe we've done 184 of these already? Well, we're at 185 now, sort of because we don't have any choice. The season's upon us. Whether you like it or not, spring has sprung. I understand that for some of our guests, that seems like a faraway dream, and spring may never come, but I'm sorry. I'm dealing with pollen allergies, so all right. You can all hate me. I'll just mute myself now. At any rate, we have a nice turnout for our Getting Ready for Spring podcast, including Melissa Sage-Bollenbach, Chrystal O'Keefe, the other half of the former, or still extant, Indianapolis field office with Super Joseph Resis, and friend from the long distance past, but ready to rock out every Sunday for some reason at Southside Sox, it is Hannah LaMotta. So thanks for all four of you joining up with me. And we're going to talk about the Chicago White Sox in 2025, because we have to talk about the Chicago White Sox in 2025. Spring's coming. Pitchers and catchers report right around or right prior to Valentine's Day. Love will be in the air. We'll see how long it lasts before it burns off. So let's start there. How long will the love for the White Sox, if there is love, how long will it last before it begins to burn off? I suppose once they actually roll out the ball for that first game and they get in between the lines for real, this reality will set in and we'll all come crashing to the ground about the realistic prospects of probably a third straight triple-figure loss season. But we'll get to all that negativity later on. How long will the good vibes continue with new manager Will Venable and a couple new acquisitions, maybe some young guys? What do all of you anticipate as really the season, like it or not, is creeping up on us?
So I was looking at like the active roster going into spring training, and yikes.
Yeah,
yikes,
damn your eyes.
Yikes, it's bad. I did just see like Gavin Sheets signed for a minor league deal in San Diego, so good for him for getting away, but man, there's like nobody left.
Yeah, the scary double edge of that, Chrystal, is it's like, oh wow, maybe our organization is that bad because players do get picked up by the teams, but then too often they actually do something with those players, and then we end up feeling worse about ourselves because it's like, oh, they unlocked the key to Gavin Sheets, and Gavin Sheets hits 31 homers in 2025 in Petco.
Yeah, there's nobody left. It's really bad.
Yeah. Okay, so I think Crystal's on my side here, but the three of you, anybody actually genuinely excited, even when looking at the active roster again? Careful, might want to put the shades on or something when you do that.
So spring training to me is just that this time of year is always just exciting. And I can buy into the hope and all of that stuff. But by the end of April, I 100% expect to be frustrated and mad and right back where we used to be until I think like September, when some of the young guys will, be maybe coming more into their own and give it a shot. So that'll be exciting too. So I'm pretty much expecting from May through August to be hell. But I will be excited and try to embrace the hope and the spring's eternal attitude until at least the end of April.
Yeah. I think Melissa has unearthed an early pocket schedule title. We expect May through August to be hell. I don't think they can actually put that on the official one, but maybe the unofficial pocket schedules. I think everybody's going to want to scratch that on the cover just to remind yourself there's a reason why you're suffering. Let's just hope there is a payoff there, Melissa. Okay, Joe is on walkabout. So, Hannah, you are up for things you might be excited about, or how long will your optimism last as free training actually starts to crack?
I mean, I never had optimism in the first place, so there's nothing to lose when it comes to that. Like, I'm not even kidding. The only thing that I've been thinking of recently in like the down winter years is like I'm excited to go to the ballpark and watch a baseball game and have baseball on because it means good weather in summer, but that has nothing to do with the team itself. Like, I'm not excited to watch the team. I'm excited to watch the sport. and that's just the vibe that I'm at. I had to, detach myself long ago, so now it's not getting excited about the team, and just, I guess, yeah, like it's gonna be a long summer. It's gonna be a really long summer.
Another pocket schedule title. You have to detach yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a struggle, so might as well just detach yourself now so that you can't feel disappointment as much, and we get through these long months when baseball is the main sport. We get through those, and that's it.
Yeah. Hey, listen, White Sox. Hannah might be watching the Joliet Jackhammers or the Kane County Cougars or something. It's just baseball. Can we watch in a local high school? I mean, you're gonna have to do something to get us out to the park, even though it's built in that we all want to come see our team, experience the park, smell the hot dogs and the onions grilling and all that stuff. Crashed Chrystal's private birthday party on a Thursday afternoon, even though you weren't invited, because hey, I showed up. I got the stamp. You can't kick me out, Chrystal. Okay, Super Joseph. Optimism? Is it just like sort of a fog? Haha, look at that. Local connection. Fog rolling in on you, and then you'll be overwhelmed by it. Or, are you just looking forward to baseball getting started?
Mainly looking forward to having baseball available to watch again. That's sort of the main thing. In terms of Major League Baseball, there really isn't that much to be excited about at this point for the White Sox in 2025. The minor league system, however, there is there's actually some excitement brewing there, I think. I promised myself to not get too excited about that because, they had one of the top farm systems, 8 years ago, and that didn't really lead to much, of course. So, I am definitely not going to, fall into a similar trap this time. But I would still much rather have a good farm system than not have a good farm system. So, it's not, I guess, a complete lost season up ahead. And, the White Sox could have some good long-term pieces. So I'll definitely be following that in the months coming up.
Some prodigious, but also clandestine self-promotion there from Joe Resis, who is our minor leagues go-to guy at this point. He has sagged very delicately from the extremely disappointing triple-figure losses major league team into focusing a lot more on the minors for us. Maybe some fill-in, just throw us a bone to recap a game here and there in the majors, but definitely our focus guy, players of the month, players of the week, minor league updates. So he's again, Joe, going to be our go-to person at Southside Sox when it comes to our minor league coverage. So thanks for doing that, Joe. Although good, I'm glad you're not even feigning. You are actually genuinely interested in our prospects this year. Hey, 2 playoffs, the first time since I've been doing Southside Sox for a team that actually exists. The last playoffs and the only playoffs we actually covered in this regime was a team that no longer exists for the White Sox. The what are they called? Great Falls Voyagers. Great Falls Voyagers. Yeah, the Montana team that doesn't exist anymore. So hey, maybe we'll have even more playoff teams this year. I hope so, Joe. I want us all to be excited about this season. Joe has the inside track. He's got the advantage on all of us. We're going to continue with questions that sort of at least try to skew positively. So we're going to go around the board here one more time here and talk before our break about one aspect, one player, one thing about this team. And Hannah, you have to answer. I guess you could choose like hot dogs grilling, but one thing about this team that maybe does drive some genuine optimism in you. You're curious to see how things might play out in Cactus League. That covers the prospects because obviously not all these guys are on the 40-man or are going to break camp with the team. So it could just be simply seeing a few guys in a few games in Cactus League play and just get to see that and dream on what could be happening in the next couple of years in the real ballpark. But give me something that you have some genuine optimism about. Position, player, promotion, birthday, renting the park out for your birthday, whatever. What is it?
Like, I genuinely don't have an answer for you other than what I already said about being at the ballpark and seeing baseball and it being summer. Like, for the team itself, I'm not going to be optimistic about anything, honestly, because I have been, and it's gotten nowhere. And this offseason was no different. However, like, I guess Will Venable will be fun to see if he's a competent manager,
Okay.
and to just kind of see just something new, fresh, after the Ben Johnson hire. Like, I'm excited to see that. It's the same with Venable, right? Like, I want to give the guy a chance, a younger, fresh face, I guess. So, I'm not saying Pedro was old. I'm just saying, like, he seems like a younger guy who is gonna, there's a lot of young people on the team. So I guess I think we kind of I almost forget sometimes that we got a new manager because it did happen so long ago.
He might not have been old, but he was tired.
Who?
We can agree on that.
Pedro? Yeah.
Tired, man.
Yeah.
His stick was tired. See, look at this. You came in hot saying no. Same answer, Brad. And look, we broke you down. And
No, I guess
something you're looking forward to.
I mean, yeah, you kind of forget about I kind of forgot about that whole aspect, and then I realized that we had a new manager. So I was like, okay, got to give him a chance. But we'll see. It will be able to tell right away if he's a guy or not, honestly.
That's just good mental health practices, Hannah. You got to put this stuff out of your mind. So well done. Well done. In fact, I'm sorry you're here because you could have maybe slept well into Cactus League play and then sort of woke up and said, oh, yeah, it's coming. I got to get that pocket schedule that says it's going to be miserable from May to August, and then I'll start to be excited in September. Okay, any of the other three of you, give me something or multiple things that you're excited about for 2025.
I'm with Hannah on Venable coming in just because it is a fresh face and he has like some experience and some kind of winning culture. But I'm admittedly excited about some of the younger pitchers coming in. I mean, some of them we've already seen, like Drew Thorpe, seemed to show a lot of promise. Jonathan Cannon, I really liked what I saw of him last year. So some of these guys like Nick Nastrini, I'm trying to think of who else was there. Gus Varland seems very charming. But like, I'm excited to see what they do because, I mean, we don't have any pitching other than these like really young guys and then are very washed up veterans that do nothing for me. So I'm excited to see what they can do, especially in spring training, and hope they get some starting spots because, I mean, we don't have anything else going.
Yeah.
Nobody can come here.
There is legitimate depth. Well, we'll find out if it's legitimate, but there is depth, certainly on paper and relative to what we've seen. Even when the Sox were briefly, it actually did happen, all you dear listeners and viewers. They were briefly competitive in the so-called contention window. But even in that time, there was never any depth, and we tore our hair out over the fact that this team couldn't even go really 5 starting pitchers deep, much less 6 or 7. That does seem to be something that's been solved via a number of trades and that. Certainly we removed a top shelf player in Garrett Crochet, but with that comes a lot of depth and probably maybe some exciting positional battles, even down to the rotation, come Cactus League. So
I mean, I think it was just last season. I said, before Drew Thorpe was injured, he's showing flashes of Dylan Cease, which is exciting to me because I love Dylan. So I'm hoping that stays on track.
It's going to be crushing if Drew Thorpe turns out to be one of those guys who are like AA Hall of Famers, but because of legitimate reasons, like namely not really having much oomph on the fastball, turns out to be also ran at the majors because he got called up, had some great starts, and then again we don't know how much the elbow was an issue there, but oh my God, he seems to be, I mean, at his peak, which is basically the bulk of last season. Wow, that's prime. That's a guy that you think it could be like a 1 or 2 in a rotation, and that's sort of what you want to get out of trading a guy who already is your 1 or 2 in a rotation. That's how that works, Chris Gatz. These tips are free just for listening to or watching the Sox Populi podcast. Okay, hot seat for Joe or Melissa in terms of optimism.
So I have to say that in the short time that Brian Bannister, so kind of to tie in with the pitching, the short time that he's been in the system, I do feel like he has a philosophy and that he's sharing it throughout the system, and that those of us who covered the minors last year, saw it play out. So with that being said, I'm going to hold optimism with Ryan Fuller in the hitting department this year, and looking for that same type of philosophy to kind of start going through the minors and then showing in the majors as well. So but it's, it's nothing but hoping and crossing our digits, because it could completely combust and turn into nothing. But I'm going to be a little bit positive that we will see some changes in the approaches of our guys at the plate in terms of patience and understanding the zone and, the very basic parts of baseball.
Yeah. Something we've seen the White Sox doing under this very latest new regime has been, particularly 2 drafts ago, but I guess even maybe extending to last summer's draft, where they were finally, I'm not sure why they would ever get away from this, were trying to embrace guys who get on base, guys who might not strike out a ridiculous amount. But that's a good point, Melissa. It's great to get those guys, but they're not expected to go from college or even high school and just sort of figure out how to keep doing that on their own. It's a pretty rare talent. I mean, look at Colson Montgomery's struggles at AAA. Tells you can't just rely on your own wits to dominate at every level as you get closer to the major leagues. So having a system-wide philosophy, having a guy who can maybe teach to execute it and teach guys to execute on an individual basis the sorts of things we might have already be seeing with the pitching on the pitching side would be great, because you can't just say, I mean, it helps to stock with Rikushi Nishida's instead of, I don't know, Zach Collins's in terms of just getting on base and creating exciting baseball, but that's probably not going to do it alone. So having the personnel up top, the White Sox seem to have been ignoring this for, I don't know, forever. I mean, even going back to Ozzie when the team was, being successfully managed there briefly, it still was sort of like, not to diss Ozzie, but, just roll the balls out on the field, play. You guys are good enough, go out there and win. And I'm just not sure that's going to hack it for guys who are like, come on, high school. So Joe, you're up. I mean, I'm sure we used up all your answers, but you have to come up with something unique. What's happening?
It will be very easy to impress me in terms of the new manager.
Yeah.
The last 2 managers of this team have been like hilariously bad at their jobs.
Well, Joe, we finally figured out why he took the job. It's like,
yeah,
fail. Look at the 2 clowns they just had. I'm going to look like a Hall of Famer. You solved it. Thank you, Joe. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, on one hand, Venable starts his career with a lot of losses, but he also has a very good excuse for those losses. And, most of those will be completely out of his control. And also the fan base, I think, will generally give him a passing grade for how he approaches the 2025 season. So, I mean, that's one thing to look forward to, I think. Also, I'm just kind of curious what it's like. I think, this might not come to fruition. I'm not as sure about this next one, but I'm looking forward to having a team that isn't perpetually chasing like the all-time record for most single season losses again. I think they can reach, I think they're going to be a little bit better and to be like several games above, wherever the 2024 team was, last year at this exact moment in time. We could look back a year and be like, well, at this point in time, they were, 70 games under 500. This year, we're only 55 under.
Well, Joe, bless your pure heart for that optimism. That sounds like a seg. Let's take a quick break. Hey, you know what? I always say these are going to be short podcasts, and they never are. Guess what? This one is actually going to be something that will come in, I don't know, shorter than an hour. And I've just cursed it again. So see you in 2026, everyone. We're going to take a quick break. I don't know, a minute or two, however long enough Fans First Sports Network needs to sell you something. Please listen patiently. Don't turn us off. Second half is going to be very exciting because guess what? It might take a darker turn. That's the segue, and that's the not from Joe. Joe is excited. He thinks things are going to be real good, and we're not going to be looking at the calendar saying, oh my God, 70 under in May? That's not even mathematically possible. Oh, it could be in 2025, but we're going to see who among the panel here might be agreeing with that. Hang with us for a minute or two. We will be back, I promise. Hey, White Sox fans. It's Brett Ballantini here hosting. Trying not to talk too much, but I can't help myself. I'm sorry. I should use the mute button way, way more frequently. I just don't do that. I'm sorry. This is Sox Populi Podcast, number 185. We are addressing the 2025 Chicago White Sox as spring training nears. There's nothing we can do about it. We are actually, some of us here are actively trying to run away from it, but it's coming. There's nothing. It's February 10th as we record. It's unavoidable. The Cactus League play begins here in another 10 days or so. Pitchers, catchers report, end of the week. Oh boy, it's upon us again. And as much as we've been positive, look, even the background, the Diabillic Sox Park on fire graphic we used for basically the bulk of podcasts all last season, completely appropriately, by the way, White Sox, no guff from you, is gone. We're just to some like sort of purple thing if you're watching us. It's just sort of chill. We're all calm. We're trying to be a little zen going into the season. At least I am. I need to tell myself that the park is not on fire yet. And that probably is the seg for what we might just bring to the conclusion of this podcast, because I imagine we might all have things to say about this. And that really is the overarching question, whether or not the 2025 White Sox will be better in any measurable way. On paper, I'm not sure anyone, even sunny, it's always sunny out on the West Coast, Joe Resis cannot convince me that on paper that this club is something we should be significantly more excited for. And I'm not sure we can just say, oh, well, a few more balls will bounce fair. Maybe. But boy, that really sort of sounds like we're just going to Las Vegas and doing what it is Major League Baseball apparently wants us to do, which is just gamble all of our savings on games. Gosh, I wonder if there were some gambling commercials that you may have just heard. If so, apologies to FFs. SN, we know those are legitimate advertisers as well. What a world we live in. Okay, let's talk about 2024 versus 2025. What in the world can we legitimately expect from the 2025 team? Joe, coming into the break, sort of already said, listen, there's no way. Come on, it can't be as bad. Now, Joe's probably going to still, he's going to couch that and say, well, they'll only lose 100-1, and that's a 20-win, improvement, whatever. Okay, you don't get a gold star for still losing 101 games, but that still is measurable improvement and definitely decidedly, as sickening as it sounds, a decided move in the right direction. Not many teams improve by 20 games in any given year. Definitely not the ones that lose 121. So maybe that's a place to start. Will this team flirt with not losing 100 games? Just realistically, once the games are played, what are we going to see in 2025 from this team?
I can go first, or Melissa. Well, I'm just thinking back to when we did this podcast the last 3 years. In 2022, after the year we went 500, I said, "Oh, it can't get worse than this year." Then the first 100 loss season, I said, "Oh, it can't get worse than this year." Then last year happened, so I'm not gonna say that it can't get worse.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never gonna say that again. Because
White Sox fans, it's Hannah's fault. She did it. She keeps cursing us.
It's true though. I mean, at this point, there's no way it can get worse than what we saw last year, right? There's no way.
You can only lose 162. I mean, they're close.
I don't know, man. I feel like I don't know. I think 60 wins will be a overachievement, which is very sad to say. Unfortunately, that's just the hole not we, but the team has dug themselves out of. So I guess just, I don't know, man. I'm not going to say anything. I can't. I was so optimistic that the last few years after just got worse and worse and worse that they would turn it around. And after last year, it's if they don't turn it around in a big way, I don't know.
We'll pack them up and move them to Nashville
at that
ourselves.
point, I'll drive them down there because it's just there's nothing. So I guess just like I said, just show me a competent baseball team that's trying hard with a manager that cares and young players that care, and that's all you can ask for in a rebuild. You don't want the Moncadas and the Aloys, and no offense to them, but by last year they were just kind of dead weight at that point, and there's no effort there, there's no passion, there's no care. So the most that we can ask for is just competency, and I would be happy with seeing some passion and some fire from the team. That's it.
Yeah. Feisty 100 losses is different than
Exactly.
Malay's 100 losses for sure. Sorry, I keep interjecting things. I'll let everybody speak in a second, but I think this is pertinent in that, a replacement team wins more than, literally, I think I just made this comment on Southside Sox to someone who had made another comment about the team. And literally last year, a goldfish or a chimp or a cat or a dog could have fielded a better team than Chris Getz did just by random picking out of a hat, because replacement team wins minimum. It varies depending on what stat group you're going with, but a minimum I think is high 40s. And I think there's talk now, there does seem to be some movement where that level's actually a little too modest, that a replacement team, meaning just random AAA guys, I think is essentially what that means, would win low 50s, not even. So this team underperformed by maybe 10 to 12 games, just random. Literally almost the five of us could have got out there and done just as well. All right, I know that's taken a little too far, and Hannah just did disavow and say we didn't have anything to do with this. So okay, not literally us out there, but a replacement team was so much better than the 2024 White Sox. And the idea that we might just get to replacement level with the end results in the standings is it's horrifying, because now we're talking about a 324 game stretch of sub replacement ball. Sickening. But on that note, hey, will this team be better than 2024? How about the rest of you? What do you got in your coffers?
So in 2024, they had a 75 weighted runs created plus, easily the worst in Major League Baseball. I think they're going to inch that up to 80. And pitching will be probably similar, but they will have a tall left-handed pitcher who makes an appearance late in the season by the name of Noah Schultz. And I do think he will make a splash early on. I think the White Sox will actually develop him properly. They do have a good history with players, like him, left-handed pitchers who, have a very good slider. There are maybe some questions in terms of his stamina and whether or not he'll be able to start games and be able to put forward, 6 innings every 5 games or not. But I do think Schultz will make an impact late in the season. I think they can improve by 10 games, maybe 12.
Okay. Now, Joe, I'm going to bounce this right back to you, specifically talking about the tall left-hander, because the White Sox, now it's like a thing. The only thing the White Sox are good at, aside from some delicious concession food and fireworks every other minute for whatever reason, are tall left-handers. And more than that, Joe, they decide to sort of wing it with tall left-handers. Chris Sale, Ken Williams for a while there was like, no, he's just going to forever be our closer. And if Chris Sale wasn't an extremely rude boy, and it's like, no, that ain't happening. But who knows? He may, never become a starting pitcher. Garrett Crochet, weirder circumstances given pandemic, his injury history. But another guy who sort of traipsed from the bullpen into being a guy whose first major league start is an open day start is an anomaly, and that's not going to happen with no Schultz this year. But is there a little bit of overconfidence that the White Sox can just sort of say? I guess what I'm getting at is Noah Schultz hasn't thrown 5 innings in a professional start, and you and many people are talking about him making an impact on this year's team. And again, that could be for an inning or two out of bullpen, whatever. You're not specifying, I know. But is there some point where it doesn't always click and work with this team, or is that overblown? That's just like, hey, if these guys are pitchers and big time arms, they're going to figure it out. It doesn't really matter if they're a closer for a season or if they're a long guy for a season, and then suddenly, apparently, Garrett Crochet has proven you can just decide to start your first game and be a really good pitcher, even though you've never started a game in your career. Am I just being a worrywart and saying at some point this is not going to click for the White Sox?
No, you're probably there's some truth to that. Absolutely, I probably am overconfident a little bit.
I like it.
Yeah, you can never really say for sure with these kinds of things, especially with the White Sox. But yeah, I do think Schultz has been very, very impressive. He's done a good job at every level so far. He has a lot of potential, and he really hasn't hit any major roadblocks, which is pretty unusual. And so I'm going to grasp onto this for the time being and say, the White Sox do have a bright spot in the short term with him.
Okay, I'll stop trying to rain on the Noah Schultz parade. It's apparently become my mission, so I'll simmer down about Noah Schultz. Okay, it comes down to Melissa and Chrystal. You still have to have answers, and you're under the gun here. Better, worse. What's going to happen in 2025?
Okay, so I am optimistic, right? I'm trying to do the sunny spring training thing, but they're not going to lose 121 games, but they're not going to get anywhere near the projections of people saying they're going to win at least 60 games. Like, I just don't see it, especially with the rope that they're going to give a lot of these young guys. There's going to be a lot of growing pains with that. And I think Noah could come up in September and, have 4 starts or something and be fantastic. But if he goes 5 innings and we still don't score any runs, it's not going to do him good. So I think that, we're not going to be chasing the record, but boy, if we squeak out an extra 10 wins, I think we're going to be really lucky.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
Chrystal, what you got?
Oh,
You have to answer.
I know. I've been trying to pretend I wasn't here to answer this. I mean, it's going to be brutal. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm excited and optimistic about the young pitching. And to Melissa's point, yes, there will absolutely be growing pains, and they will be on very short leashes. But we don't have a single guy on this team that can hit the ball in the air at any given moment. So like Melissa said, the pitching could be phenomenal, aces all across the board, but we're not going to score a single run. And I would be stunned, absolutely just gobsmacked, if they win 45 games. Like, I have no actual hope for the batters on this team.
I'm in the O'Keefe camp on that one, but we'll get to that in just a second, where I'm going to actually make people put their names to a number. But I mean, it's easy to say, the pitching, it's sort of collectively as a group, it's sort of rising. There are a lot of names in the hat, and if somebody gets hurt, somebody does falter, okay, they're back down to Charlotte, someone else comes back up. I think there's definitely there are more backup plans than there have been in the past, where I think some seasons there's been no backup plan at all. 4A guys, weird journeymen getting starts. But I mean, the thing, I don't think any of us forget that Eric Fetty and Garrett Crochet were big parts of this rotation for 2/3 of the season last year, Crochet the whole season. And those guys are gone. And there's definitely not a pitcher on this roster who we can say will come close. They could, but that we can, reasonably say is going to come close to filling those shoes. And that's a pretty big, that's going to be a pretty big vacancy at the top of the rotation. I mean, that was the bulk of the winningness of this team last year, as much as those two words don't go together.
I miss Fetty so much.
Yeah. Well, I think he misses us too, because I'm not sure he's ever going to have the success he had during that brief, beautiful pre-trade deadline time that he had in Chicago. You'd think he'd be clamoring to come back. It's like, whatever, they served us before games and I ate. Worked for me. But I mean, it's a lot to over, not that we're overlooking it. I mean, none of us are overlooking that, but I mean, we're sort of taking for granted. It's like, oh, well, the rotation was good, or the pitching was good, and the hitting was so bad. Well, they're going to be a lot more. I think they're going to be more even this year. I don't think you can possibly get less even than they were last year between the hitters and the pitchers in terms of WAR and what they produced. But that doesn't necessarily mean the hitting's rising. It could very well be that the pitching sinks a lot closer. I mean, I think it's inevitable that that's going to happen. We just hope that there's enough bats, again, that there's enough depth that you can trot guys out. And I don't know, get Miguel Vargas or whoever that guy is, that gloomy frowny guy. Like, I don't know, he gained his weight back, and he'll validate Chris Getz as being a adequate major league GM, which, I mean, let's face it, the 5 of us know the answer to that. But somehow the White Sox are going to just keep the baseball world guessing. Like, there's a possibility that he's going to be validated as some sort of executive of the year.
I mean, if Andrew Vaughn decides he can actually like play like we were promised, and we don't end up trading Luis Robert, and he's back to Luis Robert, 2023 version, we may score a few more runs. But I mean, even like the young guys like that are more on the offensive side, like Teal.
Well said. Very offensive, but go ahead.
Teal or, Montgomery, either Montgomery. I don't know. I just don't see there being enough offense there to make the difference in the games between a win and a loss.
Can we just agree that Andrew Vaughn is not going to? Why are Joe? I have a feeling you have something to say about this. Why we're paying Andrew Vaughn almost $6 million? I know it's a lot of egg on the face to have a number 3 or 4, whatever. I get him and Madrigal confused because they're both washouts. What? Can you explain that to me? Anyone, but Joe, I need to know what your thoughts are on this.
I do not like Andrew Vaughn as a player. I'm sure he's a nice guy. But yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I would not have tendered him a contract for 2025. I feel kind of bad saying that because I liked him as a prospect, but yeah, I think his time has come and gone, I'm afraid. As it related to my thoughts on the offense, I'm slightly more rosy just because they're losing Martin Maldonado, Gavin Sheets, and at least we did see a nice upward trend in September from Lenin Sosa. So maybe he is starting to turn the corner there. I kind of got a little bit hopeful for him due to the way he played down the stretch. So I think just no longer having some of that dead weight that was just, abysmal and in 2024, I think that will help at least a little bit.
Yeah. Another pocket schedule title right there. 2025 Chicago White Sox, addition by subtraction. Very nice job. White Sox, these are free to use. We just give them away. Shout out to Chrystal because you overlooked the Benintendi power. That man was flexing last year. What an upward trend from him. He's worth, oh, that's right. He's not worth $18 million. Oh, okay. Well, he's worth the $6 million that they're paying Andrew Vaughn. See if they could just shuffle it that way. But I don't know. There's a players union and stuff.
Yeah, there's not a single player on this team right now. I think I would pay that too. No.
They don't have a major league regular. Well, I mean, I guess the Zips is saying that Luis Robert is going to be a guy. Is at least
Let me
a
see
2 WAR plus player. Yeah. Okay. So what? High end one major league starter.
Prove it, please. Mm-hmm. I'm begging that man to prove it.
This is this feeling like we're attacking Super Joe Resis. No, we're not. We're not. But he's sunny on the offense. We're just saying him. Let's play a couple games.
I love Luis. I need him to prove that he loves me back by actually hitting the ball this season.
Yeah. Staying healthy. Just all those things that seem so elusive for this entire White Sox core, even when things are going well. They're just like, one pandemic from screwing it all up. Well, let's blame the pandemic for the White Sox. Jerry Reinsdorf is still infected. Okay, let's not get any sort of legal trouble, Brett. Okay, well, let's wind this up on the so-called shorter side, but we will do a round robin here. We did this all last offseason, and I think it's cute to think back on it now because of all the reluctance to even say 100 losses, and that became hilarious. And I feel sort of proud that I was one of the couple to say oh no, they're going to break a record. And I will actually answer this one, but I'll let everyone have another turn. Some folks have already answered this 2, 3, 4 times. You at home, listening in your car, at work, trying to not work, trying to pay attention to something else. So thank you for spending time with us at work. It's always a better choice to spend time with us instead of work. Have probably already answered this in your own head several times. So look at your scratch paper, see if you want to change your answer now. And how many, again, let's try to make it sunny. How many wins, do the quick math there, how many wins are you looking for from the White Sox in 2025? A reminder that they won 41 games in 2024. And the season before, it was 61. I don't even remember. It was a horrifying total. Closer to one, the other, or are you just going to go off the board and pick something else? What do you all have for 2025 at this moment as we record, February 10th, 2025?
So they went from 91 to 81 to 61 to 41.
Oh, God, it's going to be 21.
I'm going to be fun, I'll stick with the pattern of having it end in 1. I'll go with 51.
All right. Okay. That's okay. That seems entirely reasonable. Probably inaccurate, but that's what the predictions are for. We'll have that podcast here coming in, I don't know, a month or so, where we all decide to put our picks down for another season, and we'll see who's right or wrong at the end of the season. But all right, 51 is on the board, continuing the theme. Joe doing the theme.
I will say
yes.
I was slightly incorrect about the 2021 win total. They had 93 that year. So they only have 3 years in a row of having a number ending in.
And remember, that's where it started, man. They had that weird second half, and they were the best team in baseball, and they're like, okay, 100 wins in the can. And then it's like, oh, well, they still won the division. Man, that kind of stuff is dangerous. And then look at this. How many years later? It feels like 20 years later, but it's 3 years later? And we're winning 41 games. The curse of Tony. Don't drink and drive, kids. Okay, so the rest of the field, we got 51 on the board.
I'm going with the nice even 50. Give me the 50-cent piece. So,
right.
Yeah, I don't think there are going to be 10 wins better. So I'm going to go with 9.
All right, just to be a little different from Super Joe, but we got a little consensus forming here so far. So, Chrystal and Hannah, what are you thinking?
I'm gonna go with 49 and 113 because I feel like saying 50 is giving them too much, like switching over to the 50 win total.
That's an accomplishment. They cracked the 51. Oh my God.
I'm gonna stay in the 40s, high 40s. So 49 and 113.
Okay, Chrystal, I know it's the answer you don't want to give, but what you got?
Because I believe that this episode will come out on Billy O'Kay's birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, Billy.
I'm going to go with his age. He's turning 47.
Oh, man, another age dig. I love it. Okay, old man. Same wins.
He's my old man.
Yeah, okay, 47. All right, this is good because we've gone down. And guess what? My turn. And I will not disappoint. I've said this already. I've seen nothing to change my feeling. I only changed last year because I realized I was picking them to break a record, and I had the record wrong. I thought it was 105. It was 106 losses, so I revised that to 107. Stuck with that. Boy, did I miss. And I was almost the closest to the final total among our staff. I have said this before. I'll say it again. I'm hoping that I revise this upward as the spring goes on, and I'm going to be happy to eat my words. Again, another pocket schedule title right there. I will be happy to eat my words. 2025 Chicago White Sox. I'm going to say they are actually going to improve. They're going to improve by 1 game. So I'm going to say it is a 42-win season from the Chicago White Sox in 2025. And you know what? That's an upward trend. And so we can be excited in that. At that pace, by the time Cyborg Reinsdorf is trying to already get out of his deal with the 78, the White Sox at that pace will finally be a 500 team. So, as long as we don't all expire in the next, 50 or 60 years, we could see the playoffs again on the South Side. Okay, it's not that dire. We know it's not going to be that bad. And I'll even admit that 42 wins seems to be a pretty dour. Again, in the Joe Resis, a few more balls have to fall fair theory that is unlikely to come that close to history again. Oh, but I don't know if there's a team that defies history. It's the Chicago White Sox, and this is the type of history we've never, ever, ever embraced. Even the Black Sox. That's like a thing. That's like a car accident. That's not like a disease, or any more than a disease that was symptomatic of all of baseball and all of sports at the time. So the White Sox have never distinguished themselves as being this hideous and different and ugly in all of their history of 125 years of White Sox baseball. And now this is the era we're in. We lived to see the 2020s where the White Sox became the laughingstock of baseball. They became, if you will, the shorthand, the Chicago Cubs of baseball. And it doesn't feel good to replace the Cubs in terms of futility, lameness, discussing this. Still don't want to be a Cubs fan, Nod to that ownership. How you feeling right now, Ricketts? Anyhow, okay, I guess on that note, before they kick me off, thank you, fans, for Sportswork Network for letting me host a podcast. I managed to not sneeze. I managed to not get too smoky for my overnight. I'm ready for the overnight smooth jazz session on KTCU, so tune in for me there after you switch this off. But Chrystal O'Keefe, my sister in dourness, about 2025. Melissa Sage-Bollenbach, realistic and hoping to be sunny. Mr. Optimism, Joe Resis. I mean, this is all relative because Joe's probably like, man, I'm not optimistic at all. But poor, and on this crew, you're batting leadoff in terms of just go out there and take a couple cuts and see if a ball lands fair. Because man, it is going to be brutal in 2025. But I hope Cactus League proves us all wrong, I suppose. And Hannah LaMotta, welcome back. Thanks for bringing realistic amount of dour and so forth. Because listen. We're buckled in. We've strapped it down. We're cinching it up because this is going to be rough. And if Melissa was right about September being a time where it actually does sort of brighten up, 1989, foreshadowed an incredible 1990 season. I'm sure it's happened in other junctures in White Sox history as well. Let's hope, I guess, that's on the horizon for us before this decade expires. But I don't know. We're at the midway point, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we have real good times to look forward to in the 2020s, but let's hope. Games get started fairly soon, another 10 days or so. A number of folks here. Hannah on Sundays. Melissa, I don't know. What's your day, Melissa? Wednesday? Tuesday?
I think it's Wednesdays.
All right, we'll give her both days. Forget it. And Chrystal is Friday, Monday and Friday. I forget. Thursday.
I think Monday and Thursday.
Yeah, she's doing double duty on these games that don't often get played. So I said, you know what? It's not fair. You're getting time off if we all have to suffer. So yeah, you get 2 days now. Take the 2 partial days. So Crystal's going to
because I wasn't doing enough.
No.
You needed more. You needed
Yeah. Chrystal figured, I don't really do a lot of podcasting during the season, so I better make sure to do this one on Populi 185. Exactly. Yes, tune in to Disney and Dugout. 6,000 episodes beginning in probably another month or so. Look forward to that. Hitting just about every series preview. I do not know how she does it. Indefatigable, no doubt about that. Super Joseph Resis on the minors, Hannah commentary and Sunday recapping, and Melissa Sage-Bollenbach. Oh yeah, she's got the crystal disease. She just throw whatever at her. She's going to grab it, smile, write it down, maybe have a soft cry later because of what she had to witness. But that's basically being a White Sox fan. Okay, last pocket schedule for you there, White Sox. Use them all if you wish. We will expect no compensation. Just maybe give us a pass to Sox Fest next year. Yeah, whatever. Okay. Thanks to everybody for watching, listening. Look at this. We got this in under 50 minutes. Man, I'm getting better. By August, we're going to be doing these in 10 minutes. Look forward to it. I cannot wait. Thank you, Chrystal, Melissa, Super Joseph, and Hannah. Thanks for everybody listening, watching, whatever. We'll do another one of these again soon, probably right prior to when games begin, so maybe another week, 10 days or so. We'll be sure to do it unless there's breaking news, which I can't imagine what breaking news, aside from White Sox breaking baseball, there would be, but don't put it past them that they could actually do that. So when that happens, we will do a podcast with you. Otherwise, see you as Cactus League play just about gets ready to start.